Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for our first gen graduate student panel today. I do want to mention that this is going to be recorded to allow people who aren't able to attend today but still want to get the information access to it at a later time. And we will have time for questions and answer at the end, so you can type in your questions in the chat, you can raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself. And I am excited because we have panelists who have a wide range of experience and knowledge that they are able to share with you as you're thinking about grad school or applying to graduate school. And they're also from a wide variety of backgrounds. So we have some STEM majors, we have some that aren't. So you can get what that experience is like, regardless of what major you're coming from. And I also want to acknowledge like how Poly Pomona resides on the traditional territory of the Tongva people. And with that, I'll hand it over to our moderator, who is a ramp tutor and peer mentor, Jane.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to go ahead and start with some introductions of our panelists. So if I could have all the panelists, we're going to go in the order of Sara Carrillo, Kimberly Cortez, Ashley Duran, and Vivian Huing. And if I could have you please state your name, your graduate program that you are currently in or going to be in, and your year and or level. And we can go ahead and start with Sara.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sara, and I'm a first-year PhD student in community nutrition at Cornell.
We have Kimberly.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kim. I am in the master's program here at Cal Poly, and this is my last year, so my second year.
Thank you. And then Ashley.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Duran, and I'm currently pursuing a master's degree in college counseling and student development at Azusa Pacific University. Currently in my second year and finishing up, and I'll be graduating in less than 2 months.
And last but not least, Vivian.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Vivian. I'm an undergraduate senior at Cal Poly Pomona, and I'll be starting my first year PhD at UC Davis in the program of pharmacology and toxicology.
Thank you so much, everyone. So let's go ahead and get into the questions. So we're going to start our first question. Our first question goes to all of the panelists in the order that I stated before. So our first question is, consider your earliest notions of graduate school. What are some of the reasons you decided to attend? Were there any individuals who helped you make your decision? We'll go ahead and start with Sara.
Okay. So my earliest notions of grad school, I didn't really know about grad school as a child. I didn't really even think about college as a kid. It wasn't until I was in high school that I kind of just knew that my family expected me to go to college. Especially being the oldest in my family, being first generation, I went to college and didn't do well. I went to like 5 different community colleges and dropped out. And so I kind of took a break, went back to college when I just became interested in nutrition. I saw a change in both my son and I, how it affected our like mental and cognitive function. So I went back to school and I was very interested in research, learning about it. And it was through getting involved in programs. So at Mount SAC, they had, it's a TRIO program as well. I think it's called ACES. And they really helped me with like, that's where I attended my first presentation on what graduate school was. And that's when I heard about McNair Scholars Program. So when I transferred to Cal Poly Pomona, found out about RAMP, the TRIO program as well, and just attending workshops and applying to the McNair Scholars Program. Also applied to the Projects Hatchery program, which is at Cal Poly Pomona. And that's where I started learning more about research and graduate school. And yeah, that's how it just helped me to learn like what I need to do as an undergrad to prepare for just applying for graduate school.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sara. We can go ahead and move on to Kimberly.
Okay, so my earliest notions of graduate school would probably, excuse me, would be my junior year of my undergrad. Um, I also knew I wanted to be a certified public accountant. So, in order to be in a CPA, basically, is to you can either go to graduate school or you could just like fulfill those units some other way. But I knew I wanted to further my education because I love learning. And so and plus I knew that going to a master's program would definitely help me along the way. Um, and also like my family supported me a lot. So that was a really big help. They're still pushing me to this day because I'm in my second year and I'm struggling a little because I'm almost done and I could feel it, but it's still hard and still like I'm still pushing through, but they're really helping me along. So yeah, that's pretty
That's awesome to hear. Thank you so much for sharing, Kimberly. We'll go ahead and move on to Ashley.
Some of my earliest notions of graduate school was at the end of my sophomore year. As a first gen student undergrad, I had zero notion coming in. I'm like, I don't want to go to grad school. I don't know what grad school is. And I told myself that I wouldn't pursue a master's degree because I told myself when I was an undergrad, I want to get a big girl job once I'm done with my degree. But one, I did not have money to do so. And two, I didn't know what direction to take. And so because of that, I was completely lost during my sophomore year, in what I wanted to pursue after I was done. I thought I wanted to pursue a big girl job, but, actually didn't know what I wanted to do. But I got a position at the end of my sophomore year at the Career Center as a peer advisor. And this was for checking resumes, cover letters, and just helping the career counselors with anything else that they needed assistance in. And so in being a peer advisor and just being exposed to career services and of course grad school as well, I really enjoyed the student development aspect of things. And I remember talking to my supervisor, who was Sherry Peters at the time. And I told her, is this something that I can do after, I graduate with my bachelor's degree? And she said, yeah, but you have to possibly pursue a higher level degree. And I said, well, what kind of, master's degree should I pursue? And she said, well, you can do either student affairs or college counseling. And that's when my interest for graduate school started. She really motivated me. She was a mentor to me. And so that's when I said, okay, I think I'm ready to pursue a master's degree and look for graduate programs where I could possibly pursue career services. And so thanks to Sherry Peters and just the environment that I was in, working on campus and for the Career Center, that's where my interest for graduate school started.
Thank you so much for sharing, Ashley. We could go ahead and move on to Vivian.
Yeah, so for me, I didn't start thinking about graduate school until my junior year. And it was at that time where I made a friend who was at the time, he was a current McNair scholar. And prior to that, I had no experience with research or graduate school at all. I didn't know anything about graduate school. And he encouraged me to apply to the McNair Scholars Program, which is another TRIO program that is open to first-gen low-income students that are interested in pursuing graduate school. And I said, you know what, why not? Let's give it a shot. Let's try something new. And then it was through there that I shifted gears. So first, my major is animal science. And initially, I thought that I was going to pursue a veterinary degree and go to veterinary school and work in the clinical setting. But then I realized through research that that's not really what I want to do. I'd rather pursue research in a laboratory setting and study specifically medicine for animals, and then studying the efficacy and the safety of the medicine. And so that's how I shifted gears and found my passion in graduate school. And yeah, so that was how I started.
Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. We can go ahead and move on to the next question. This question goes to panelists Sara and Vivian. The question reads, did you apply to grad schools outside of California? What are some of the challenges and benefits that came from that? We'll go ahead and start with Sara.
Okay. So yes, all the graduate programs I applied to were outside of California. And the reason I couldn't really find a program in the state of California was because my research interests were like kind of unique. I really am trying to look at, well, when I was applying for grad school, I was interested in how nutrition affects cognitive function, but specifically in the autism community. And so I was not really having that much luck finding a program where I felt like I fit in the program. So I ended up finding, I think it was around, it was at least 5 programs that I applied in Chicago, Urbana-Champaign, Georgia, and then Cornell. And when I was going through that whole application process, it was really scary because I felt a lot of passion and drive. Like I knew that I want to do research, but it was just scary thinking about leaving the state, leaving my home, family, and friends, like everything I knew. So I ended up getting accepted. I got accepted to all the programs, but decided to go to Cornell, which is in New York. And I thought the whole state of New York was like New York City, and it's not. Cornell is in Ithaca, which is like more of a rural area. So it's a lot of forest. It's not a big city at all. So some of the challenges that came from coming to a grad school outside of the state is just having to start all over, like having to build a support system, make new friends, finding a place to live. And as a parent, I had to think about, okay, where's my son going to school? Do they have the services for him? Just getting all of that, it was just very overwhelming. And there's also a predominantly like white population here. And that's not something I really thought about when I chose this place. There's a whole other culture here. Even just like walking into the grocery store, it's not like the grocery stores in like LA. I had to buy my own tortilla maker because I couldn't find corn tortillas that were like good, which was very surprising. There weren't like chiles, like a lot of cultural foods. I'm Mexican. I did not find. So that was like a whole shock kind of thing. And then another challenge was I did not realize like how I did not expect my body would respond like the way it did. I was really scared all the time, questioning if I made the right choice. Just like going through grief my first year of my PhD program, still am, but it was just a lot of changes. So those were some of the challenges. And then the benefits, I would say I've been doing my best to like reframing those challenges to positive. So I've gotten the opportunity to just meet new people and really step outside of the world that I grew up in, which was Southern California, and just meet new people, learn about their experiences and perspectives. And I tell everyone, like, I feel like over here being on the East Coast is just a whole other world compared to Southern California. But no, it's just really helped me to, I guess, be more okay with like discomfort and changes and adapting. So there's a lot of benefits with, you know, going out of the state, and you get to also like travel and be somewhere for like 5 or 6 years.
Thank you so much, Sara. I'm happy that you were able to reframe those challenges and put them in a positive light. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and move on to Vivian.
Okay, for me, I only applied to one school and I applied to UC Davis. So please don't do that unless you're absolutely sure you're going to get in, and at least have a backup plan if you do apply to one school. And so for me, the reason why I only applied to one school was because I visited UC Davis in October, so just a few months ago before the application was due. So I had plenty of time. And since I visited the school, I actually got to meet with specific faculty members that I wanted to work with in the Department of Pharmacology and Toxicology. And there was one that I really connected with. She's actually my first choice mentor, and her research interests align a lot with mine. She studies drug metabolism in horses, and that's something that I really want to do. And I could tell that that would be a good fit for me. And after that visit, I still stayed in touch with that mentor via email. So anytime I had questions, I would reach out to her. I also asked her if she could connect me with current graduate students just to get a better feel of what the day in the life of the lab looks like. And so it was because of that that I felt pretty confident that I would get in, because I already have that established connection with someone there, as well as the other current students there. And the benefits of applying to that one school was a lot of reduced stress. I only had to deal with one application, just a few essays, and that was it. But also, like, another benefit to that is it allowed me to be a lot more personal with my essays and really cater as much of my interest as I can to the mentors. And because of the one application, I dedicated a lot of time into that application. I took advantage of the writing center and received feedback from the tutors there. And yeah, so again, please apply to many schools, but if you're absolutely sure with the one school, then go for it.
Thank you, Vivian. Congrats on getting into UC Davis, and I'm glad you were able to find those connections there. Okay, we will go ahead and move on to the next question. This question goes to panelists Kimberly and Ashley. The question reads, think back to your first term in your graduate program. What stood out to you? If you faced an obstacle, how did you resolve it? We'll start with Kimberly.
Thinking back, well, probably still now, is probably like the ratio, like in my classes, like the ratio between men and women. It's a very predominant, like when you think of business and at least accounting, you think of it as a more predominantly male run by, I don't know how to say it, but there's more men than women in there. So I kind of felt intimidated as well. And as well as there was a lot of older people that like going back to school, and I just came from my undergrad. So I just went straight into from undergrad to the master's program. I didn't take a break or anything, but a lot of people are coming back to school, you know, getting their masters. So I also thought that was a little intimidating because I felt like they knew more than me for some reason. That's just how I felt. I did slowly like became comfortable and, you know, talking to the people around me. And now in my work, I am 1 out of 3 girls work or women working in a more predominantly male field. So that was the word I was gonna use. So it kind of helped me adjust. So like I had to adjust like to speaking up in class and making sure like I was heard and seen. So and like I wasn't just like pushed aside. So that was one of the obstacles I faced as far as like going in or going to classes and stuff like that. What else there? Also there was like the classes were small, and my classes are smaller. I'm used to bigger classes, so everyone knows each other. So I'm like sometimes I'm in the corner and I'm just like don't want to talk to people, but like I just because sometimes I'm very introvert, but I can be extrovert. But it's just whenever I want to be extrovert, I'll be extroverted. But it did made me be more willing to talk to more people. So that was probably some obstacles I faced during the graduate program.
Thank you so much for sharing, Kimberly. We'll go ahead and move on to Ashley.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back to my first quarter of graduate school, I think just like you, Kimberly, I noticed that everyone was older than me. I was just fresh out of undergrad. And as a 21-year-old, you have older cohort friends that are either in their late 20s, 30s. A lot of them already had a family or were engaged. It was just, like getting to know people that are older than you. And it was just something that I needed to get used to. And then also from talking to my cohort group, I noticed that a lot of them came into the program with a lot of work experience. And I felt behind just because I felt like if I didn't have enough work experience, I was just working an on-campus job. I was there for 2 years working part-time. And then, a lot of my cohort members were either, 10 years within their job or 5 years, 6 years working full-time. And so, I really needed to be confident within myself and the skills that I was bringing into the program. Also, classes are very small. Coming from a public institution, Cal Poly, classes are large. Usually have like 50 to 100 students or more in a class. And so I needed to get used to that as well. Also, my program was broken down into the quarter system. So we had 8 weeks per term. And so we had about 2 classes. And so you have so much material to learn in grad school that 8 weeks was just not enough, but you get used to it. And so an obstacle that I faced, I would say, was work-life balance and being a full-time student and being able to care for my own well-being. I think that was a struggle for me. Yes, I was working as an undergrad and had, more than 5 classes, 6 classes, but, it's different when you go to grad school because, as you get older, you focus more on personal life. And this just wasn't personal life, it was academic life. And then trying to build a professional network, trying to be a professional. And so, I was trying to give 100% to everything, and then there's a time when you just burn out, but that helped me to establish boundaries in every area. And because I needed to put my mental health first. And so I realized, I cannot pour from an empty cup, but I feel like that's an obstacle I went through.
Thank you, Ashley. I commend you both for coming into cohorts that were not like yourself, but being able to establish your presence and learn more about yourself. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. This question goes to Sarah and Ashley. It reads, what type of learning and student experience were you seeking from graduate school? Have you received it? If you have conducted research, how did you choose your mentor? And we'll start with Sarah.
So what type of learning and student experience was I seeking? I was seeking an experience where I could just immerse myself in the research that I wanted to do and just like not think about anything else. Like, this is my time to just really go in there. And I also was like seeking an experience where, and this was based off like workshops and presentations I attended as an undergrad. I really saw grad school as being a place where, oh, your cohort is like your community, like your family. And so that's what I was expecting grad school would be. And I still don't. I'm not sure if this is just, if it's because of the grad program I chose, or it's a part of the country or something, but I have not received that experience. And it's been eye-opening. I'm the only Latina in my cohort and also the only one from a low-income background. It's been difficult to like find community. So my first semester was hard, and I was like, what I thought my experience would be in grad school is not what is happening. So I really, because I did not receive it, I had to go out and find it. And so I never really was on social media before. As a parent, I just didn't have time, but I was on Instagram and I found a Latina support group based in LA. So I joined that support group and we meet virtually. And then I found a support group for graduate students of color and joined that group. And really, when I was in those spaces with the other students, really felt in community. I felt safe. I felt like I didn't have to explain what I was feeling or my experience to the students in that space because they were going through the same things too. And then what else did I do? I thought I could just immerse myself in the research, but being in a PhD program, it's very, like, if you don't get a fellowship, they give, like, you can be a TA or a research assistant. So you have to also dedicate time to that. And then also figuring out like your minors and what courses you're going to take, things like that. So I thought, oh, I'll just get to read and do research all day. And it hasn't been like that. And see, what's the next question? If you conducted research, yeah. So actually I just started this semester because my first semester was just a lot. It still is, but I started working on a scoping review, which is a type of literature review. And I had to really decide, like, okay, am I going to stick with the advisor that I started with at the beginning of the year? I've had the option to do rotations and really see if maybe there's another advisor in the program that could, that I would have worked best with. And I've decided to stay with the one I am with right now. And what really helped me to decide how to choose my mentor was to identify, like, what are my values and what are my needs? Like, what do I need from my mentor? And being in the McNair Scholars Program at Cal Poly Pomona and being in the Projects Hatchery program, I got experience with two faculty members, like being my advisor. And I got to really find out for myself, like, okay, what kind of mentoring relationship do I want? And what I learned being in both of those programs is I really want a mentor who will see me as human and that'll be present. And I really went based off that and some other needs that I also identified for myself. And that's how I chose my mentor. Because just being in grad school, I've heard a lot of experiences of students who they don't have that type of relationship, and that could really determine your experience in grad school is the type of mentor you have. But again, these are like my unique needs and values. Like, people work in, they have different like needs and work environments. So just identifying like what you need, what are your values, and making sure that your mentor aligns with that.
Thank you so much, Sara. Okay, if we could hear from Ashley.
Yeah. So I think the type of learning and student experience that I was seeking when I was doing my research grad schools was really the learn by doing aspect that Cal Poly Pomona implemented. You know, I really did acclimate very well in that type of learning. And so I was, you know, looking for something like that in a graduate program, and also a program that really had the moral, ethical, and spiritual foundation embedded within their curriculum. And so, of course, I found this program at APU for the College Counseling and Student Development Program. And, you know, it's just a really great program where you can be innovative within your field, especially within student affairs. And just the way that faculty and staff support you was really huge for me as well, because I'm that type of person that, you know, will go to office hours and will want to create that relationship with my professors. And so that was something that I was really the type of learning and student experience that I was looking for. Let's see what else. Research. So my program isn't really heavily research based. We do have to do like research papers that are assigned, but not in a way where we'll publish or do research with a professor. But in terms of choosing an advisor or faculty member, at the end of the program, you'll do a capstone. You will present on the 10 competencies that you gained experience in. And so your faculty advisor or faculty member will be given to you at the beginning of your graduate program. But you know, our program is really heavily research based.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Good luck on your capstone.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and move on to the next question. So this question goes to Vivian and Kimberly. The question reads, did you/will you attend grad school directly after completing your undergrad degree? Why or why not? What do you recommend students do to make themselves more marketable for graduate admission? We'll start with Vivian.
Okay, so I will be attending grad school directly after my undergrad. And that decision didn't come very easily. I was actually debating if I could defer or if I should defer my admission to the next academic year. And the reason why is because I still want to obtain the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree, but for that I would need veterinary hours, and right now I have none. So I was planning on using that year to work in hospitals and gain the clinical hours that I need to apply to veterinary school. But then I spoke with an advisor from CPP in the College of Agriculture in the veterinary department, and I was asking for her advice and her opinion, and she recommended that I don't and that I just go for it because UC Davis, it is like a heavily agriculture based school, and the veterinary students, they are there's a lot of opportunities for students who want to go to veterinary school there. I could always volunteer at the hospitals on campus or off campus. And the degree that I want specifically is the PhD DVM dual degree, where I will complete both the PhD and the DVM at the same time. And what's great about that program specifically is because if I were to attend UC Davis right now as a PhD student, I still have within my first, I believe, 2 years to apply to the veterinary school. So that way I'm still eligible for the PhD DVM dual degree. So yeah, so that's why I changed my mind and said, okay, I'll go for it because also when I met with my mentor in person, she connected me with this current student who's also doing that pathway as well. And she said, I'm working in an animal hospital, and if you need hours, I can, talk with my manager and help you get the hours that you need. So it was because of those connections and from talking again with my advisor that I felt a lot more confident in going straight in. And if what I would recommend for students to make themselves more marketable for graduate admissions, so the big thing, it's not always about the grades, it's more about your experiences. And so a lot of the things that I did to prepare for graduate school is being involved on campus. That's something that they look a lot into, is like who you are as a person and how you help your community. So a couple things that I did was being involved with RAMP and preparing for graduate school through the various workshops provided by RAMP. And then they also heavily emphasize your research experience. If you are going into a STEM field, having that research experience is a huge plus. And so being involved in the McNair Scholars Program for a year and doing research under that was, it shows that I have the experience needed and necessary to complete research in a graduate setting. And I learned a lot of really important skills from McNair, such as how to write an abstract, how to do a literature review, how to pick certain graduate schools. So I would recommend for students to look for opportunities like that on campus, and then try to make the most out of your experience here in college.
That's great advice. Thank you, Vivian. We could hear from Kimberly.
Hello, can you hear me? Sorry, I got a little. So I previously I mentioned I did attend or attending grad school. I attended grad school right after undergrad. I know I didn't. I knew like I didn't want to take like a break in between because I knew I kind of like knew myself, like I was like if I didn't do it back to or like right after, I think it would be a even more struggle for me to get back into school since I've like we've all been in school for so long, so you kind of get burnt out a little. So I was a little burnt out, but I again with the help of like with my family, they really pushed me to continue. And like I thank them for that, because I wouldn't be where I am now without them. So I definitely truly commend them for that, or any support system really. Even my friends, I like text them every day. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. They're like, no, you keep going, keep going. I'm like, okay, okay. I just need that little, just keep going, and I'll be like, okay, I got it. But as far as say I think Vivian said it best. You know, to recommend for students to be more marketable is to get involved on campus. I believe that's like truly the best way. And also maybe like, so for my entry, I had to submit an essay. So maybe just when, if you, I don't know, whatever programs you guys are interested in, or how you apply, because it's different for every program. Maybe just you know, revise your essays, just hone in on your writing skills. I would also go to advisors as well. That's probably like the most important, is just to, you know, ask around. It doesn't hurt to ask other people, get other people's opinions. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be your decision whether you want to or not.
Thank you, Kimberly. That's great advice. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. So the question is, please describe your experience with imposter syndrome and how you managed it or overcame it. This question goes to panelists Ashley and Sarah. We'll go ahead and start with Ashley.
Okay. Let's see. Imposter syndrome kicked in right when I started graduate school. So I had applied for this internship to start in my first year of graduate school, and I accepted to be in this internship for the Office of Commuter Life at Azusa Pacific University. And this was my first, you know, professional job within my field. And so, you know, 1 week before starting this position, the director had given their 2-week notice to move out of state. So our staff size was really small. So it was just myself as the graduate assistant coordinator and the new interim director. And so I had no formal training, but my first week back, I had to train 12 commuter life assistants, which oversaw the entire commuter life program, the services that we provided for our commuter students on campus. But I had no prior experience of training someone, especially, you know, 12 commuter life assistants within, you know, a 2-day time span, and get them ready for the first week of school. And so, you know, with no prior experience, and, you know, with the director leaving, that is when imposter syndrome kicked in. And I said, oh my gosh, like, can I do this? Am I capable? And so that really made me rethink my skills, my abilities, and my strengths. And I told myself, do I even belong in this space? But then after completing the training, and seeing the results of my work and seeking out advice from my mentors and professionals, I realized that I can do this and more, because I have prepared myself to be in this space and I belong to be here. And so I think the way that I overcame this was to recognize the achievements that I've had and what I've done so far to be here, and to not make perfection the goal. You know, we're always striving to be good at something, and we're always going to be new at something. And so you just have to stick with the people that are going to support you, and you have a community that wants to help you. And have self-compassion for yourself. I think that's very important. I was always hard on myself, especially without experience. But this experience taught me that I'm capable of so much more than I could ever think of.
Thank you so much, Ashley. We'll go ahead and move on to Sarah.
Okay, so I was experiencing imposter syndrome during my undergraduate, and I wasn't aware of it. I didn't find out about imposter syndrome or really know what the word meant until my last year at Cal Poly, which was like 2 years ago. I learned about it during a McNair Scholars Workshop. And I wish, like, I don't know, maybe I had recorded myself during that workshop, because I probably showed in my facial expressions like shock. I remember, and I forgot the faculty member's name, but he was describing like all of the like symptoms or not symptoms, characteristics or things defining imposter syndrome. And I was like, oh my gosh, I doubt myself. I'm always like over preparing, trying to be perfect. When people compliment me, I don't believe them. I feel like I'm going to get found out, like I'm a fraud. And so I think the following year, being through RAMP, I learned more about the imposter syndrome, and we had a workshop having a conversation about it. And I would say that that's how, I wouldn't say I've overcome it. Like yesterday, I started leading a research team, and I had thoughts of like, they're going to find out that I know nothing. They're going to find out that I don't belong here. Like, I had all of these thoughts, and they were very overwhelming. And so what I do now is I say it out loud. I don't keep it in. I'll write it down. I just kind of have to release it. And I learned this from my last year at Cal Poly. Like, when we had that conversation, that RAMP workshop, talking about it, it really shines a light on those feelings and those thoughts. So talking to someone about it has really been helpful for me. And also, yeah, just questioning, like, having a conversation with that part, just saying like, why are you feeling this way? And maybe even looking at your resume or your CV and be like, oh my gosh, I've done all these things. This is the reality. My thoughts are not true. And so, yeah, it's an ongoing thing. I don't know if I'll ever overcome it, but I do have the tools now to decrease those thoughts.
Thank you, Sara. And it was eye-opening to learn more about imposter syndrome while I was able to work with you at the RAMP a couple years ago. So we're going to go ahead and end the questions here. We're going to move into our Q&A portion. So if any of the participants have any questions for the panelists, you are more than welcome to put them in the chat, raise your hand, or just unmute yourselves. So we'll take some time for that Q&A.
Question for Sara, even though I'm a panelist. Are you, so I know you're in New York. Are you thinking you would want to move back to California, or like after school, or stay in New York? Like, how is that transition for you think gonna happen?
So, wait, is this for me?
Yeah, for you.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Up until the day that my last day in California, I was telling everyone, my family and friends, yeah, I'll be back in 5 or 6 years. And my partner and son and I, we could not afford to fly to New York. We could not afford to pay to move our stuff. So we just got our truck and took a road trip, just drove across the country. And that was the first time I ever got to see the United States. And as I was driving, I remember thinking, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to live in California. And I haven't really told my family. I guess I'm saying it now. I don't know. I think it's limiting. I'm limiting myself by saying I will go back. I think after being here and kind of meeting new people, and like I said earlier, learning new experiences or hearing about others' experiences, perspectives, I'm kind of like, I want to see the world. Yeah, so I don't think I will. Maybe I will. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just curious. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Kimberly. We have a question in the chat. I believe this goes to all the panelists, whoever would like to answer. How do you decide who to ask for a letter of recommendation? So whoever would like to answer can go.
And it looks like we have a response from Vivian. So in the chat, she wrote, I asked professors, faculty, mentors who I have a close relationship with and that know me well. I know that they are willing to write a strong letter of rec for me.
And I
And
also, oh,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. No, of course.
No, I also wanted to add, because I know when I started as a fresh or as a when I transferred to Cal Poly, I did not know any professors or faculty. So just visiting them in their office hours, I know it was kind of awkward sometimes, but getting to know them and then just sharing like why I'm in college, what my goals are, that really helped me to get my first letter of recommendation from a professor. So going to office hours.
Thank you, Sarah.
I also want to add to that response that I typed. So depending on whatever program or if it's like a scholarship or anything, I try to select faculty or professors that have more of that background that's related to the program or the scholarship. Because sometimes it's more appropriate to pick a STEM person to write on a STEM program versus a humanities professor for a STEM program. So I try to be more selective in who I pick to ask for that letter, in addition to having that close relationship.
Thank you. That's great advice, Vivian. We had a question in the chat from Elena. How do you form those relations and or stay in contact with advisors and mentors that you have spoken with?
I have a question about that question. Like, are they asking like, how do we maintain, no, how do we stay in contact like after, like when we go to graduate school, like when we're there?
I believe it is asking how do you form and or how do you stay in contact, yeah, past graduation, after you've graduated.
Oh, I send emails and I send letters because like my advisors, like in the McNair Scholars Program, I've known them for about almost 2 years, and just that's how I stay in contact with them. It's just, you know, telling them how my experience is, and then like they still give me advice and tips just to you know, succeed and make it through this program.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Even though I haven't started yet, I still talk to some faculty members from previous internships that I did in the summer, and I send them emails, or even with some, I follow them on Instagram, and then we just message each other every now and then, see how we're doing. And it's always nice to catch up and then ask them for advice.
Thank you, Vivian and Sarah. We had a question from Dustin in the chat. Is it important to make connections with professors in the department you are applying to prior to applying?
I can answer that one. Yes. So what I did prior to when I started graduate school, or even when I was in the process of researching grad schools. So for example, I was very interested in the APU College Counseling Student Development Program 1, which I'm currently in. So what I did was I went on their website, looked for faculty emails, and even the director of the program, I emailed her and I said, hey, you know, do you have time to meet for, you know, just a one-on-one? I would like to know more about the program, the coursework. Is it okay if we can meet via Zoom? And they said, yeah, sure, you know, we can go ahead and meet. And so that's how I made those connections with faculty prior to applying to the program. And also I attended info sessions from that program and reached out to past cohort members just to talk more about their experience on how that program was for them as well.
And thank you so much, Ashley. We had a question from Casey. It's directed to Kimberly. Do you feel confident / happy with your decision in going to graduate school when pursuing your CPA?
Yes, because I believe because like the CPA exam, especially it's changing actually. I believe they're changing it next year or this year. I can't remember right now. But I felt like I wasn't ready just to go straight into the CPA exam. Obviously it could take a lot. Like my professor right now, he just he just got his CPA license recently during COVID because he had time to study. But I felt like I could learn a little more, like background, different types of accounting. I know it sounds boring to people, or like counting can be boring, but it's very interesting to if you think about it. But uh, I got to experience different types of accounting, like international accounting, forensics accounting. I really, technically, I really want to go into forensics accounting, so like deal with like money laundering, stuff like that. That's what I really want to go into. So that's like my end goal. So I'm pretty happy with what that the path I'm going as far as going to the master's program, and also like that's another degree under my belt, and also and another degree. And I kind of I felt I'm happy about it because it's uh it was a goal of mine, and now I'm like reaching it, so it's very a big accomplishment for myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. We had a question from Denise, directed to Sara. How do you integrate and find time for self-care to balance it with your PhD program and having a family? Since you had shared that you also felt the changes and needing to adapt in your body's response.
That's a really good question. It's something I had to figure out last semester very quickly. Again, like I don't know if it's because it's Cornell or if it's I don't want to say it's the East Coast thing, but I don't know if it's all grad programs, but I feel like a lot of graduate students here are expected to just produce and work and not rest. And just walking around, I see other grad students and they just look very tired and exhausted. I hear it. And so I was feeling that way the first semester, just overwhelmed. And what I did is I really had to set boundaries. I think someone else mentioned it earlier, is setting boundaries and asking myself, like, what do I need? If I need to go take a nap, I will go take a nap. And if I need to step away from my desk, I will do it, because in grad school, what I learned also very quickly is that the expectations are different. Like, it's not like undergrad where I had to go to lecture, take an exam, and get tested on my knowledge. It's more like I have to produce ideas and be creative. In order to be in a creative state and be productive, I need to be centered. And so what do I need to feel centered? And so finding a mentor that, again, aligned with my values and needs is crucial. Like, I can't be with a mentor who's going to be like, okay, you're going to be working weekends, in the nighttime I'm going to be messaging you. And there are mentors like that. So finding someone who saw me like human, work-life balance, and not, I'm not going to change my boundaries. I'm not going to change my values or needs. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Sara. Good on you for recognizing your boundaries and setting those. We're going to go ahead and get into our last question. It's also from Denise and directed to any of the panelists. Do you feel like you are the representative for your whole community? For example, Sara as the only Latina in her program, and Kimberly as one of few women in the field. If so, how do you manage and respond to this?
I can answer some of it. I do feel like I represent women in the field, just because, first of all, there's like 9 of us in my my group, and I am the youngest one there. So when I first started, I was very scared, and like how we talked about the imposter syndrome, like they're just like, I mean, they brought me in like very welcoming, but at the end of the day, I was freaking out inside, and I was like, oh my God, I'm the youngest one there. I'm the only girl there, or not girl or woman. I was actually in one of like a budgeting meeting, and it was all men, and I was the only young woman there. So it was very intimidating. But how I manage it is to basically not let them see I'm scared. I'll just pretend I'm, fake it. It's kind of fake it till you make it kind of situation, because you just gotta ask the questions, act like you know what you're doing, even if you don't. Ask someone and be like, hey, I don't really understand this, or hey, this is do you believe this is wrong or something like that? Just be confident. Like honestly, that slogan, fake it till you make it, is the best way to manage my um my field.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Is there anyone else that would like to answer this question? Sarah, go ahead.
I think this is a really good question. And I think there needs to be more conversations about this question because at first I did, and then realized this was like a really heavy burden for me to carry. I really had to step back and be like, and especially like coming to the East Coast and seeing like the diversity in the Latina community. Like I said earlier, I'm a Mexican, and just meeting like Puerto Ricans, people from the Dominican Republic, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm one Latina, and with a unique experience. I cannot be representative of the whole community. And but my family does view me as that. And it's, for me personally, too much to carry. But I will say, just being here at Cornell and seeing just kind of being with others like who are wealthy and privileged, I'm very close to like seeing how the system was not set up for people like us, and how my presence is, someone told me, I forget the wording, but like it's like an act of social justice, just being in these spaces. And so being aware of that and being like, oh, what I'm doing here is actually something against the system. So thinking of it that way instead of thinking of like being representative.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sarah. If anyone else would like to answer, Vivian or Ashley? If not, it's totally okay. We are short on time now, so we're going to go ahead and close out this panel. I wanted to go ahead and thank the panelists for their time and for sharing their stories. Thank you so much. And we want to thank the participants for attending this. If you have to go, you are more than welcome to leave. Thank you so much for coming once again. And if for those of you who would like to stay and talk to the panelists some more, then you're more than welcome to stay as well.